got enough cheer.
All right, the time is now 6:30. I'm going to call to order Tuesday, August 25th, 2015 meeting of the Tilton Planning Board. First case on the agenda is site plan review. Proposal to construct and operate a gas station and convenience store at 80 and 96 East Main Street in the Regional Commercial District, R24/12 and 13. And I believe everybody has a copy of the application form. Please review it. You have the attached authorization letter, sorry, it's not in
The application.
there.
The signature?
Yes, there was a, yes, a authorization was provided.
All right, are there any comments, questions?
That's the other one.
That's the other one.
Different. I make a motion to accept the application as this is substantially complete.
Is there a second?
With the attached qualification.
I have a question. Why does the letter from the Tilton Fire District ascertaining adequate emergency vehicle access to the property not applicable? Do I suspect they do? But I'm not them.
Are there more than 3 lots? There are not more than 3 lots.
Okay, then why is one named Susan other utilities checked out?
I assume because those are there. Does that explain what I said? It's not more than 3 lots.
What was the question? Sorry.
Catherine wants to know why Tilton Northfield Fire doesn't have to check off it's not applicable. A letter from them saying that emergency vehicles, and I said because this whole section is for more than 3 lots.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
So
I
then my question
imagine,
is, why is the other checked out?
Well, it doesn't matter because those things are there. So it may not be applicable, but they're there, so I assume someone just checked that off because there's water, there's sewer, and other utilities are there.
Well, either the section applies to this or it doesn't.
it does not.
It does not, so just put not
You shouldn't have
applicable.
checked that off.
Well,
But
they
it's
did,
there.
so
I mean, yeah,
it's
that-
there, and you know, whether it's applicable or not, and I think that's what it means, so. I believe it is complete, and I have a motion on the floor. Do I, and a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I decline.
There's an F.
I do not abstain. I decline to vote.
Decline to vote. All right, so I will now turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. By way of introduction, my name is Jim Dumanco. I'm a lawyer in Concord. I'm here on behalf of Global One Health, along with the people around me. Will you just introduce ourselves, Karen?
I am Karen Susi. I work in the Yanko Professional Association.
So,
Luke DiStefano with Bowler Engineering.
Jamie Cook with Global Montello.
Bernie Gould, Finesse Associate.
we brought our team, and you can answer whatever questions you like. The way we want to do this, if it's okay with the board, we're going to give you a very brief opening, who we are. You don't know us. Talk a little bit about us, tell a little bit what we want to do, if the engineer to answer any questions you have. We'll talk about water, we'll talk about environment, talk about whatever you want to talk about this evening. We'll go over the plan for you, okay? So we have a handout for you, if we can, just to pass out, that tells you a little bit about us, a little bit about the project. As we go along. So, the first part of this just is who are we, right? And so, we're a distributor of gasoline and wholesale. Retail and commercial customers store, believe us. We have approximately 1,000 gas stations throughout New England. Part of many New Hampshire communities. We operate about 50 convenience stores, gas stations in New Hampshire. We weigh about 80. The company's been around for 75 years, and we pride ourselves on working with communities. The one we bought at Tilton, now is, we just completed one of these over in Peterborough. Interested in Peterborough, they had certain requirements, we did too, we're going to work out with them. If you're going to have a requirement, you're going to listen to each other. So the next page just tells you a little bit about the proposed project. Again, I'm going to do this at a very high level, and then the engineer can talk about more of the details, all right? We call the store that we're putting in All Town. You may have seen one on the thing if you drive. It's a convenience store and a mobile gas station. Located at 80 and 96 East Main Street. The picture on the map. And merging an existing residential building that's abutting to it into one lot. So it's about 6 acres of land when we merge the two together. And we have our abutter here, who we believe is supportive of what we're trying to do, because we're going to have a certain area here where we have an ability to have some kind of a road that we can use for the existing building. So we're talking about 5,000 square feet building with a drive-through. Retail fuel with about 5 fueling dispensers. It'll be arranged so it's parallel to the road. It will be landscape, it will be green space, and appealing architecture. The parking will be primarily to the side, in front of the building, view from the street. So, one of the things that everybody's concerned about, and we are too, is the environmental aspect. So we try to address that here briefly. We want something that the community and our company will be proud of. So undertake this redevelopment in an environmentally friendly way, something that the company and the town can be proud of. So we're going to install the DES and federally compliant underground storage tank. There are people here, Jimmy Corp was going to talk about this in detail, but just to get it on the table, one of the concerns most people have is, what about the underground tank? What's going to happen if it leaks? Now, as you all know, or may know, let me back up a little bit. Some of the tanks that are in ground in New Hampshire have been there for a while. They have to come out by a date certain. There are regulations both on the state level, Department of Environmental Services, on the federal level, as to what kind of tanks you can put in. And so we comply with those regs, both in New Hampshire and the federal one. In essence, they're double wall tanks. You'll see pictures of them, we'll show you how they work. There's an alarm system, they put it in the ground, so if there is a spill, it's not gonna go out and get it, gonna be controlled. We'll go into the detail of the tanks for you. But we want you to know, it's our goal to put the best, safest tanks possible in the ground. It's good for the town, it's good for the people, it's good for us. So that's kind of the double wall that I had here. There's a secondary containment system, you close the tank. We'll know more about that as we go. As I said, it's a state of our equipment, if there's a leak, there's alarms that go off, so it's not something you'll read about in the paper. All the proposed work outside of the groundwater district, the wetland district, and the shoreline buffer. We're concerned about runoff, we're concerned about water, want to make sure that we don't interfere with flow. We know there's a river here behind the property. The contractor will be here to talk about that. I think he's been delayed, we have an engineer, so we'll talk about that in a second. Okay. What I mentioned earlier about our abutter, there's an access easement connected to Morrison Avenue, which we have talked to with the abutter, we agreed to that. We're not sure exactly how that's going to be used, but we do think that it's going to make the access to Morrison a little more convenient. I went down there, go around, you can understand why I afraid to go around twice. Provide safer protection for pedestrians, we think, and probably safer getting out onto the main drag. So we think it's okay. Talk to you about it. I think we're pretty much in agreement. So we have that. On the last page of this brief handout is a picture of what it would look like. I always think that's easier. If you go to the very last page, there's a picture of the site. You'll have a drive-through. You'll have the tanks will be shown. You'll have the place you can go in and you can buy what you buy in a convenience store. These are very similar sets to what we use for. All right? So I'm going to turn it over to Luke. And he's going to walk you through some of the more details. Do you have any questions so far? We'll come back if you have any, and we can walk us through some of the details.
Sure. Good evening. For the record, Luke DiStefano with Bowler Engineering, Southborough, Mass. And what I'd like to do is, as Attorney Bianco mentioned, is elaborate a little bit on the proposed plan. I'm sure you're all very familiar with the site and its current condition. Basically, the majority of the parcel is undeveloped, with the exception of a residential structure located on the eastern portion of the property. The site currently has a signalized intersection located here with what is a partially made curb cut into the property in this portion of the site. The proposal calls for the construction of a new 5,035 square foot all-town convenience market and gasoline facility. The building itself would be situated basically in the center of lot 13, as shown on the rendering here. The site or the building would be serviced by 21 parking spaces, the majority of which would be located in the front and on the westerly side here. As mentioned, there is a proposed drive-through around the back of the building with an escape lane and then a handful of additional parking spaces over here. We are compliant with the current parking regulation, which requires that we have 18. As mentioned, we have 21. In addition to the building, the proposed site will have 5 multi-product gasoline dispensers situated beneath a 24-foot wide by 135-foot long area canopy. With the 5 dispensers at any one given time, this facility is capable of fueling 10 vehicles, as each multi-product dispenser can fuel a vehicle on either side. The dispensers are situated perpendicular to the direction of travel along East Main Street. I'm sure if you've seen any recently constructed gasoline facilities, that's the preferred method. It gets the vehicles off the street into the pumps with the best visibility and circulation. The multi-product dispensers will be serviced by 2 20,000-gallon underground storage tanks located on the easterly portion of the developed site. One tank is a 20,000-gallon regular tank. The other is a 12,000 and 8,000-gallon compartmentalized tank for diesel and premium product. I know there's some discussion or some concern about stormwater on the site. And under the proposed condition, we will have what we consider a benefit or a better impact than the current condition. Under existing conditions, basically all of the site runoff from the property, sheet flows untreated into, there is a wetland system back here. Basically, if you've seen the site, you know that it slopes from the street back to the wetland. Under the proposed condition, we are looking to collect, detain, and then release that stormwater back to where it's going, but at a lesser rate than the current condition. We're also proposing to treat any runoff from the paved portions of the lot prior to it being directed back into the wetland. And under the current condition, basically what we are proposing is to have the canopy runoff discharge into a detention basin here with an overflow which will direct runoff back to where it's going under its current condition. Runoff from the building will be directed into a second stormwater basin here with another overflow to provide overflow capacity back into the runoff or back into the wetland. And then the paved portion of the lot will be treated with 4 catch basins with deep sump boil water hoods that will convey the stormwater to a stormwater quality unit prior to it being discharged into an underground detention system located in this portion of the lot. That will then be released via an outlet control structure back into the wetland. And if you've had an opportunity to review the drainage report that was provided, you'll see that we're resulting in about 10 to 15% decreases in the stormwater runoff rates for all storms up to and including the 100-year event. The site will be serviced by all utilities. There are, based on initial conversations with department heads, no issues with capacity for a use like this. We will have water and gas coming into the site on this side. We'll have electric and telephone coming into the property here. And then we propose an underground sewer line via gravity out to an existing manhole within Morrison Avenue. As you can see, we're also proposing to maintain as much of the existing landscaping or to keep as much green space on the property as we can. With the proposed condition, we're looking at about 14% coverage over the entire parcel. We are also looking to add some low-level landscaping here, some buffering to the residential property to the right or to the west, and then other screening around the trash enclosure, and then some landscaping around the vicinity of the building as well, again, to provide not only screening purposes, but aesthetic purposes in the post-developed condition. Lighting will be state-of-the-art, full cutoff fixtures, down lighting that will do what we want it to do, which is basically light the site and not the surrounding area. If you've been to New Gasoline or any retail facility really for that matter, gone are the days where you have a lot of light trespass or forward throw lights. The lights are designed to put the light where you want it, which is in high traffic areas, pedestrian areas, and not onto the adjacent rights of way and or, like I said, abutting properties. Access will still be, as I mentioned, via a single curb cut here, basically one in, a center divider, and then a dedicated left, and a right and through lane here. We do have our traffic consultant who can talk a little bit more about that. And with that, I'm more than happy to answer any questions on the site engineering portion, or I can turn it over to Jamie Cook to talk a little bit about the underground storage tanks and fuel dispensing system.
Do you have a light plan?
Pardon me?
Do you have a light plan that shows?
Yeah, there was a,
How the light will be dispersed over that property and how it will may affect the neighbor's property?
that sheet 12.
Yeah, of course. That's 3 lenses. That's not happening.
Jane has the bigger one.
I have a good one.
Oh, actually, here also, this, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and this might be better.
And I know it is very tough to see on the 11 by 17, but effectively, what we're gonna have is a series of yard lights located around the perimeter of the paved portion of the lot. And then you will also have some canopy lights beneath the canopy and a few wall packs around the building. But really, at about an area roughly 25 to 30 feet from the curb line, you'll have 0-foot candles. So at no point will you have any real light trespass anywhere but within the immediate vicinity of the developed
There won't be
property.
any direct light trespass,
Correct. There won't be any trespass really.
but those people's on Morrison Avenue closest to the property will have, what, full moon effect on their properties all the time?
No, again, these,
There'll be an effect,
you'll certainly see it, absolutely.
yeah, they'll have an effect. It'll change their properties. Your drainage from the roofs, will it go directly underground or come off the roofs and shoot over the asphalt?
Nope, it'll be piped directly, the canopy drainage will be piped to the basin here.
So it'll go underground from the roof?
Correct. Same with the building.
And your catch basins are oil water separate, oil water separators, but not sediment or
They are, they're fit
trash?
with the deep sump hoods that are oil water separators, and they have the deep sump for sediment.
Okay.
And then that'll
So they'll
surface.
get garbage that goes down in there?
Correct.
And you have the maintenance schedule for those?
We do, it's in the drainage report.
And you have the stormwater treatment program
We do.
right now? Lots of stuff to study.
How are you going to treat the runoff? You said it's going to be treated.
Pardon me?
How are you going to treat the runoff? You said it would be treated.
Correct, it'll be, well, the stormwater, or the deep sump catch basins will serve one function. We also have a proprietary stormwater quality unit that will treat the runoff additionally prior to it being placed into the underground detention system, and that also serves a little bit for pre-treatment, and then that's discharged into the wetland behind the property.
In reference to your lighting, what hours are you going to do with
I'm sorry?
Hours of operation?
24 hours is our plan.
Excuse me?
24 hours.
24 hours.
it? 24?
Yeah.
Your hours of operation are 24 hours a day,
Correct.
7 days a week?
Correct.
I don't like the idea of people next door being flooded with light all the time. I wouldn't want to live there.
You have any Cumberland Farm?
We have it on Daniel Drive,
Station about 24 hours.
we have it on Grant Street. What will your delivery hours be? For goods and, I don't know, if fuel's gonna be different?
I mean, traditionally, it's off-peak hours, which typically peak hours for something like this are gonna be generally 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. They'll try and schedule deliveries off-peak. They're certainly not looking to have deliveries at 2 in the morning. I can't say that any time that wouldn't happen. There are emergency fuel deliveries that are needed, but generally the deliveries are gonna be made during the day, off-peak traffic hours.
So you have 20 parking spaces, how many handicap?
2.
I thought we saw something about Morrison Avenue connected to this a lot.
There's no connection, but there is an easement that exists. Here it's shown in the hatch portion here. We're showing that as being unencumbered so that in the future, if that easement is ever acted upon, we can provide that access back to Morrison Avenue.
The Board of Selectmen would have to have a warrant article to the legislative body. In the 70s, the town meeting voted to basically discontinue that section of Morrison Extension. Then there's a letter of an attorney saying that whatever they tried to do at town meeting, they couldn't do. So basically, it sits there as an unmaintained class 6 road.
And there is a significant grade differential too between this portion here where the road basically ends, where we'd be here. I think it's about an 18-foot grade elevation change.
Morrison Extension is currently being used like a driveway.
That's what I thought. I
So
wrote
that's
down.
probably chances of slim to none.
Well, I just remember saw the image.
I'm also concerned about the increased traffic that would cause on Morrison Avenue. You only have one way to get out here. People are going to use that as a shortcut, I'm afraid, and go down by
That's the light.
Mayor.
Why would they cut
Okay,
through Morrison if there's
There's
a
no,
light?
there's no physical connection.
Okay.
We're not proposing any connection to Morrison Avenue.
Is that corner with the entrance, is that gonna be wide enough for a delivery truck or any 18-wheeler that may go in there for fuel? Is that gonna block or destroy the island coming in and out of there?
No, we've designed it so that a
Or
fuel
a
delivery
fire
truck,
truck pulling in there?
a delivery truck, a fire truck will be able to come in, make their way into the property, around the property and back out.
What's the grade on that? I mean, now it seems kind of steep for the grade.
Yeah, we basically, in this area of the site, we
No, I'm talking about the entrance.
right, what we've done is we've picked this up so that the building elevation is pretty close to what the elevation here is at the intersection. So the grades in through here probably at no point exceed 5%.
I was thinking winter time, winter traffic. You know, with snow, I'm just thinking people getting stuck going in and out of there.
No, you don't have steep, I mean, 5% is a handicap ramp.
Has the Conservation Commission looked at this proposal?
They're included in a list of several departments that, yeah, received the plan, the link to the plans.
Okay, so have they gone before the Conservation Commission yet?
I don't know, I don't think so.
I don't believe, correct.
We thought there was not a need to go there, but we don't discuss it.
Well, it drops off pretty drastically back to those wetlands. And you're proposing to send all your runoff to those wetlands. First on the other side of the dwelling unit, right?
Yes.
Protection is, that's not even, those wetlands are all the way back.
No, isn't there a brook in the post office and the rest?
I think it's between the post office and us, sir. I thought Colin was,
No, isn't there another brook there? It looks like one of them.
is there one runoff from the other side? I mean, the pond, is that little,
I thought there was a little wetland between the house and the house.
Between Rusty's house?
Yeah, there was the house and the post
I
office.
don't think so.
I thought there was a street.
There's a,
Maybe it's just a deli there.
there's that little gully.
I thought there was a street.
Is that like a little bridge type, looks like a little bridge, right? I think that's just a gully.
Yeah, just, yeah, between Rusty's house
Yeah.
and I thought there was a little.
I think it's a gully.
What's the difference between using a double wall and a triple wall tank?
Triple wall would provide a tertiary form of containment. Double wall is standard, what's
Well,
acceptable.
I know when they put the Cumberland Farms up in the Weirs, I think that they, because of the proximity to the lake and everything flowing downhill in the wetlands, they basically put a triple wall tank just to protect the wetlands and, you know, the unlikely event that the tank does leak, it's just that extra little barrier of protection.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't want to step on Jamie's toes, but you know, these double wall tanks, for all intents and purposes, they don't leak.
What are they made out of?
Fiberglass reinforced plastic. And there are, from what I understand, tens of thousands of
Well,
tanks of this
the
type.
Shell station at the exit 20 is putting in new tanks.
These are, as meant, these are state-of-the-art, double-wall fiberglass, all the bells and whistles, overfill protection, spill containment, there's spill containment into dispensers, crash valves, shear valves. I mean, likelihood of a large release of product is very, very low.
Your transportation plan calls for sidewalks so that pedestrians can access this property, but yet I don't see any sidewalks to get them from Route 311 to the building safely.
As far as we know, there's no sidewalks leading to the site or in front of the site, so really we'd have a sidewalk.
But it's your transportation plan. It talks about other accesses to this property. The one of Selected River Trail is one of them. And it talks about the sidewalk, existing sidewalk we have that comes up, and a crosswalk across to this property. So your transportation plan is definitely directing pedestrians to access this store.
I mean, go ahead.
That's the transportation plan that we got today, that I don't think any of us have really had time to go over in detail.
Yeah, I mean, couple things, just thank you. Just to be entirely thorough in my response to Ms. Dawson's question regarding the Conservation Commission, the chairman of the Conservation Commission did comment that his primary concern was the stormwater management system, and I did forward him directly, in addition to the original email he got with links to all the documents, I did forward him directly the stormwater report. I haven't received any additional comments since then. I know he was particularly concerned with the 100-year storm, and that is indeed mentioned in the plan. One other thing I just want to, I don't believe what was submitted today was that the plan, I think it was a traffic assessment, so not necessarily the
Page 23. In addition, access to the project site will be provided by way of a full access driveway that will intersect the east side of Main Street opposite the Tilton Center Retail Plaza driveway, forming the fourth leg of the existing signal line intersection.
I wasn't saying the
In
plan.
addition, an access easement is provided between the project site Morris analysis that will allow residents Morris to access project traffic signal on East Main Street. I mean, a sidewalk should be provided along the south side of the project site driveway, extending to East Main Street, where a crosswalk and accompanying wheelchair ramps and pedestrian traffic signal equipment should be added to facilitate a pedestrian crossing of south leg of the East Main Street Tilton Center project site driveway intersection.
So I wasn't saying those words aren't written down somewhere. I was saying the document that was submitted wasn't, I wouldn't call it their plan. I would call it a third, maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, a third-party traffic assessment.
Then why do we have it?
Well,
It doesn't pertain to
It's
this
a
site.
traffic,
I'm just-
it's a traffic
Why
study,
do we
I
have
think
it?
that's what.
anyway,
It's a traffic study, am I
For
correct?
this project.
yeah, and that recommendation, certainly, I'm not saying not to discuss it.
So are you saying you feel there should be a sidewalk in the front of that property?
No, there's their traffic assessment that I read today.
Page 2 of their proposal says a sidewalk should be provided along the south side of the project site driveway, extending to East Main Street, where a crosswalk and accompanying wheelchair ramps and pedestrian signal equipment should be added to facilitate the pedestrian crossing on south leg of the East Main Street Tilton Center project site driveway. So basically, it sounds like they're saying that there should be a sidewalk going from, I would imagine, the auto serve side of that intersection across to the entrance over by Pizza Hut.
I mean, I
It was
just
my
said-
understanding that the traffic study was done,
Yes.
and that as a result of the traffic study, you were going to be recommending a proposal at some later
What
time.
we are trying to say is the site plan is developed, when we did the traffic study, we looked at the site, and then we are saying that this is what we recommend, something that could be used, could be added, like a sidewalk, so it is, pedestrian friendly, or it's the retail center, children retail center, to walk over there. But it's something that we recommended, but, depends on the number of pedestrians that we'll be using. And if there's a need to it, I think that could address that issue, but usually, to meet the state standard, we usually recommend with a signal, we put a wheelchair ramps, crosswalk for people crossing. It's pretty much a standard that we usually recommend for the signalized section. But, you know, because the site plan was developed before we did the traffic study, so this might not show up on the site plan. And it's something that we recommend, and depends on, you know, what the circumstance is, what should we, you know, project need to edit, certain way to access it. But existing, it's not too many people basically going to this, it's not nothing quite that.
There's a lot of people that walk up to exit 20.
But if they go to the Light by Pizza Hut, push the button, they can walk across the street on the clock signal.
Yep, and how do they get safely to the building when there's no pedestrian crosswalk? Somebody in a wheelchair, there's no.
I think that if we can add the sidewalk, we should have it along the project frontage, when you go all the way, and add a sidewalk go in the front, and then put the crosswalk here, and cross it to the side.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Alden. I did speak with Police Chief today, and he did indicate that, you know, providing safe pedestrian traffic ways for pedestrians to move around is of key importance to him, and he was happy to see that recommendation and would like to see the planning board follow up on it.
I think that answered your question.
Very nice, thank you.
Any other questions?
Two other questions. We can go on to the tanks.
This one's
We'll be here.
There's a mention in there as well about connecting to the soccer track. That feasible thing, I mean, is that,
Many hoops to jump through.
is there a lot of them?
That's quite great,
Is
too.
it, well, I'm saying
Well,
the
they have to
stairs.
cross the railroad track, I don't know if there's
Which is on,
Oh, it's on that side, yeah,
Yeah.
all right, never mind.
the trails on the other side of the
Yeah,
track.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
No, they can't be done with
No, for something. I was just thinking,
that. Well, dealing with the state.
we might see this in 10 years.
Be nice idea.
I think we kind of do it, you know, maybe a set of stairs that go down to, you know, to give people a chance to get a glass of water.
Is the electrical gonna be underground?
I'm sorry?
The electrical is gonna be underground?
All utilities will be underground.
You see the tank? If you have more questions, we'll be here. Sorry.
any more questions?
Wanna come and jump
Sure.
on tanks?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't think it's a set stairs, I think it's just flat. No, no, this is that one.
The one I just had.
Oh, this is
Color here.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jamie Cook. I work for Global Montello, for the folks that are proposing to put this building in place. I want to talk to you a little bit about gas tanks and systems and how they're put together and some of the safeguards that are a part of it. We start here with the underground storage facilities. As we mentioned already before, they're all double-wall tanks. Within that wall, we put sensors that will recognize either water or gasoline. If they detect either one of those things, they send an alarm back to the station. The station is monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 by a third party. And so in the case that happens, they then contact us. They also contact vendors who will come out and investigate what the problem is. Anywhere you have a penetration, you have a sump around that penetration. That sump, if in some cases where you have piping coming out, would provide containment in the event that you had a leak there. All the pumps are actually submerged inside the tanks. They come up into manifolds up here and then are dispensed out to the dispensers, excuse me. And all of those sumps there have got sensors, again, discriminate between gasoline and water. If we have any kind of gasoline leak, it shuts down the station entirely until somebody comes out and figures out what's going on. That means shutting down at the pumps themselves, so there's no pressure in the lines as we're trying to identify the issue. As we come back into the dispensers, there are sumps underneath there as well. So in the event that you had a leak at the pumps, it would all be contained in that sump area. And again, there are sensors in those, again, detecting the difference between water and gasoline. Again, on a gasoline release, it shuts the station down and it goes into alarm and gives us an opportunity to respond. These stations all have emergency shutoffs inside. All of the operators are trained to respond to a spill. Basically, for the operator, it's a hit the stop button, which shuts the station down, ceases the flow of fuel, and then they call 911 for the proper emergency response. Again, we have vendors and contractors that provide the service for us. In the event we have a spill or we have an incident, they will come out and make the appropriate response. Each response is a little different depending on the size and severity. The other notification goes to the local fire department and police department as well in the event of a large spill. Stations are monitored 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 electronically. In addition, we have a third-party vendor that comes out and checks the stations monthly. They're checking the sumps to make sure that they're still tight, both here at the tanks and at the pumps. We also have our own internal people that come back and double check that as well and make sure that everything is tight and is operating properly, that there are no leaks, there's no drips. And it gives us an additional safeguard that things are as they're supposed to be. When we fill the tanks, the drivers are sticking the tanks to make sure they have enough space to put the material in. In the event that they misread the tank or there's an issue, there are shutoffs, alarms that will go off and notify them if they need to stop providing fuel, and that's done at a 90% level, so you've got a little bit of extra there inside the tank, and you won't have a release to the ground. That is in a nutshell both the underground piece. On the top, if you go into a gas station now, you'll see the grooves. Those are positive limiting barrier. Those are required by law. Those will hold up to 5 gallons, I think it's per square foot, as well as they help in the event you had a fire. They would help contain the foam and keep the foam inside the fueling area.
Does it have 5 gallons per nozzle?
Yes. So, and the area underneath there is substantially larger than that. So, and it's all pitched in, so it's not going to flow off to the outside.
They all meet the Department of Environmental Services regulations. The state has, these are all compliant to that. They're also compliant to federal law as well. So,
in addition, the state of New Hampshire comes in every 3 years, and we go through a very thorough inspection with them as well. A lot of oversight to put into the operation of the station. Luke mentioned the crash valves at the pumps. In the event the pump is displaced off the top, there's a spring-loaded valve there that will shut and prevent fuel from coming off as well.
I mean, if somebody drives off with a nozzle.
I watched them do that.
There's
I was gonna
actually
say, I know somebody.
a breakaway valve on the hose, and that will prevent that from happening. We operate gas stations on the Connecticut Turnpike, and we probably have 10 or 15 of those a day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's pretty.
Wow.
And we have one vendor, he runs up and down the turnpike just replacing hoses. So, when it's hot out, you're inside because it's your air conditioning. When it's cold out, you're inside because you're cold, so you're staying warm and you forget.
What are the odds of that tank system? When I was out in Arizona last month, I've been in thousands of gas stations in my life. You know, the first time ever I've seen the tanks get overflowed. I mean, it ate up the concrete or the pavement around. The fire department responded. I mean, it was a mess.
Okay.
And I've never seen a tank get overflowed like that. It looked like a relatively new gas station, and I'd never seen it before. So it just brings to mind, what, I didn't think that would ever be possible, but,
It's a very small percentage, I can't tell you,
Yeah.
you know, gas stations that we operate, I can't count on one hand, it happens in the course of a number of years, but
we were talking about tanks and
our bigger challenge is people driving over hoses between the truck and the tanks.
yeah. No one's going to try, they had it all, they did a good job. The sun got there, one light up a cigarette.
So is this exactly the same system that utilizes across the state?
Yes,
No variation at
no
all?
variation at all.
In Massachusetts?
In Massachusetts, every station we build has all of these elements in here. This particular manufacturer is not, the picture represents what's in there. We use a different manufacturer, but all the elements are the same. And again, they're driven by federal and state requirements. And then the feds drive it, and the states typically follow whatever the feds have required. The history suggests that we're far better to overprotect than not, so we all sleep a little better at night as well.
Are they undergoing monitoring to determine how large or small the issue is?
No, it just tells us we have an issue and we need to react.
So because you had mentioned that for a large bill or whatever, different types of protocol, if you don't know if it's large or not, it would still be the same protocol, right?
For an underground spill, it's typically gonna, you're not gonna know. Okay, I was thinking more in terms of if you have a situation at the pump, somebody knocks a pump off and there's another issue, there's an accident, a fire, then you've got a bigger response.
So what would the protocol be if it was underground?
We just shut everything down and we get people out there, trying to determine where the issue is. At the very least, we pump the tank out until we get an understanding of what we're dealing with.
What are the chances of that happening? I mean, we're talking about it.
Statistics, yeah.
I don't have a statistic I can share with you, just.
I think it's probably minimal.
I would think so.
Statistically, a high percentage would be on
Yeah.
it.
No,
Yeah, I'm thinking that it would.
I would think it would be very,
Sure.
We're not talking about that right now, so, sorry. I had another question not related to tanks, never mind.
thank you.
Focus.
Any more questions on?
We have one other thing here, Madam Chair, that this is an environmental fact sheet that's put out by the state. It's without preventing groundwater contamination at gas stations, what municipalities are working on. I want to just pass it out.
That's a good one.
Okay. Congratulations. Start with you then. How's that? And I'll pass it out, so you can all take a look. If you get tired, if you go to sleep, if you can sleep, don't worry about it. Okay. I got one more.
The positive zoning variation.
It's only like 10 chance, okay.
Yeah, 5 gallons per dispenser.
It's sort of bedtime reading, so you can take a look at it.
It'll be bedtime even when we start reading it, right?
Sure. But I think it gives you some ideas about
Yeah.
what we're doing. Instead, we like to educate you and educate ourselves and do the best job we can.
Who's next up?
So that's a presentation, there's a listening, dialogue.
Thank you very much. I'll turn it over to the planning board now. Are there any questions, comments?
Do you have a sheet that describes the lights themselves, what type of lights? Is it on this lighting plan or not?
Big film
Some.
one,
This is it.
She's worried about that. Doesn't say, isn't that the street and that stuff?
I don't know, I'm looking, so something a little more detailed.
Area.
Yeah, see, but they've cut it off there, so you don't know the height. see luminaire schedule this plan?
That's my question.
Yes. Yeah, it says on here, area light detail, and then it says
Can I ask
see
one question?
luminaire
Jump into
schedule
my
this
head.
plan. So is this it?
Yes,
Okay, so I go by this Montello.
correct.
By the lumens.
Thank you.
Yeah, Eric, you had a question?
Yeah, the proposed drive-through portion of this, will this have an outdoor speaker that will go to 24 hours, or will it be audible in the neighborhood of Morrison Avenue?
There will be a speaker stand there. Typically, I can't tell you what the rating is in terms of how far the distance is that it will reach. It's something we certainly can look at.
Is it, is it gonna be open, is that part of it gonna be open 24 hours, or is it?
That would be our plan, yes.
Obviously, we don't want it so loud as we above it.
No, but I mean,
Some balance here. We have to,
well, you don't want it so loud, huh?
yeah.
But
I
you also
probably
want
huh.
it,
You know,
yeah,
but somebody else, the better hearing would probably go, but we don't want to offend the neighbors.
I can
Yeah,
barely
and
hear
it's-
Dunkin' Donuts in my own car.
And if I may, the speaker itself is directed towards the train tracks. It's not directed towards Morrison Avenue.
Right.
yeah, but still sound bounces. And
Right, it does, but you won't, I mean, my guess is, given the distance, Morrison Avenue being well over probably 200 feet, the likelihood of any noise making its way from that speaker when it's directed the other way is pretty minimal.
You can hear Lowe's from Grant Street. Get a little bit further.
I mean, I can hear, no offense, but I can hear almost heard sometimes from the TD Bank across the street.
That's a PA system.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe.
So the tank system is uniform, that's how you all build them all. Does that include like for treating runoff, is that also exactly the same, you build them exactly the same way as far as the number of catch basins and, you know, what you do for oil and water separation, is that also standard?
When you say standard, I'm not sure I follow what you mean by standard.
Is that how you have built them all?
I can't speak for all of Global Montello. I've been designing gas stations and retail facilities for almost 22 years, and this is pretty much the industry standard. You know, every site is different, every site's unique, but there are certain requirements, state requirements, local requirements that we need to adhere with. And based on my knowledge of the system, it's going to be compliant with all the regulations.
Any other questions?
No, snow storage. Snow storage.
We have ample room for snow storage around the entire perimeter of the property. These sites, even when you have very heavy snowfalls, they are pretty small sites when you think about it. You're not going to have, even in winters like last year, you're not going to have huge piles of snow. And on a site like this, we've got areas around the perimeter where we can push the snow, where it's not going to impact visibility, access, parking spaces, things of that nature. And we also will direct it to areas away from the wetlands.
That's what I was concerned about.
They have 650.
How much of the parking lot is curbed?
All of it.
So do you use a loader to get it up off the parking lot?
Yeah, just like any spot, they'll push it to the curb, lift the plow, push it over the curb.
Any other questions from the planning board? I'm gonna open it up to the public. Any questions from the public?
No questions, just a comment. I have met with the neighbors on Morrison Ave. You have Mr. Barrett down there. His property sits so low that it's pretty much shielded by the natural berm there. With added vegetation, he sees no problem with the project. I met with Ken Bonify, who did have issues with the project. We have acquired his home, and I control the other two properties that are here, so the abutters are pretty much comfortable with what we've got going on here.
Answers my question, Sam. I wonder what you were gonna do, Ken.
Yeah. That's an interesting fellow.
Yes, he is.
Yes, he is. That's why I said that to Dari. Dari doesn't know him.
And we'll be moving back to Arizona. And then, other than that, the only thing I would add, just from being there, is obviously, for us, looking for a partner at that location, what we run into at AutoServe for gas service, primarily on Fridays and Saturdays during the summer, is nothing short of impossible at Irving and Evans. In a lot of cases, what we do is we do a WEO to the customers just because we don't want to deal with that congestion and the length of time it takes to fill tanks. This is going to offer us a great relief not to have to go on that side of the highway. And in addition to that, it allows the opportunity for commercial development to continue to head in this direction as opposed to what's been happening. That's it from the public.
Any other comments from the public?
Do we have anything, I'm sorry, I came in late. Do we have anything yet from the fire department? All set?
Tell
No. Not problem.
Well, I think.
Wasn't applicable.
I think there,
What is it?
it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that you wanted to get through this portion first before you contacted other people?
Yes,
Okay.
So those will all be conditions?
yes.
Well, we're gonna continue this, are we not?
Yes, we are.
Thank you. Okay, straighten for a
We
moment.
thought tonight we just make the presentation of what it is, you get a general scope of it, what the project's about, who we are, and then we'll go to the next step. We assume you continue it, and we'd be back,
Okay.
and we'll work on the details.
There's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to continue.
Motion to continue.
Second?
Sorry, next.
What's our next?
September 8th.
What is it? September 8th?
Second
Well, that-
Tuesday is the 8th.
Tuesday's the 8th.
Fourth
Labor
Tuesday
Day.
is the 23rd. I
22nd.
can read that, 27th.
It's like a piece of bifocal.
I was squinting. I have trifles.
September 8th?
September 8th is our next meeting.
September 8th?
Yes.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Okay? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Have somebody come.
Is that how you feel?
If I can get somebody.
All right, we'll see you then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pardon?
We'll see a sidewalk.
All right. This is yours. We already have two plans back.
How many of these do we have?
Yeah, I think it's
I think that's the only one. The little.
We're fine with everything.
There's two. We
The
have two.
traffic study, you're gonna bring three copies of the traffic study, did you bring those?
Yes, that's how we do
All right,
it.
you have those?
Yes, yep.
This is the one, plan?
Oh, yeah, yeah, it's all, that's on, it'll all be, the traffic study I haven't added to the website yet, but, the drainage plan is on the website.
Do you have a printed copy?
Yep.
So the traffic study is attached.
Will you make me a printed copy?
Yeah, I got it.
I think I have just, I think I only have one printed copy of the store, of the drainage report, but it's, always available in my office.
No, the traffic study.
Oh, yep, definitely.
You're supposed to show me. Take my highlighter.
Yeah, the line is right.
And then it's got the real pictures.
That's pretty.
This also is good for everything. You're an expert, does everybody have a copy of this?
The next one,
No, no, of the
Next, does anyone need a copy of the next case application?
I had one, I thought, I just gotta find it.
Ms. Nimitz? Catherine Dawson and whoever else.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
No, no.
All right, moving right along. Next is Planning Board case 15-18, site plan review pursuant to zoning article 4.3, proposal to erect a sign within the front and side setback at 539 Laconia Road in the mixed use district, R10/24. All right, we have an application.
Yes. We were looking at.
I believe that they went before the zoning board, and the zoning board sent you the planning board. This is the setback.
What was the zoning board's decision?
In your application, if I may, Chairman Alden, it looks as though I myself made a clerical error on that notice of decision. Another element that shows up in the minutes of that decision is that the message word shall not change at an interval, at a higher frequency than once per minute. Just so you know.
Seem to have problems with those times.
Yeah, yeah.
Came in without a pen, thank you.
What is DOT setback from Southern Road?
33.
33 from the center line, yeah.
Those are some of the emails that I sent out.
Oh.
the 33 feet from center line, since on a checklist it says show easements.
I don't, I mean, you have diagrams, like for example, you have this.
That does not show me how many feet from the center line.
Center line.
No, so other
I don't know, yeah, no, there's nothing other than what's
The
here.
place for that on the application is then left on,
The,
so that's important information.
okay.
Since
That's,
DOT.
the applicant submitted a waiver request for certain elements, and it's, of course, planning board's, yeah, right. It's your call.
Well, I think we need to know that, and you had mentioned something about the, what is, where is the property line? Is,
Well, I mean, I think if we don't, I don't know, I certainly don't know, the property line between Fire and Stone and the Fluffy's building.
Right.
I would not claim to know where that.
when was the last survey done? You know?
I actually, just to shed a little light on this, I do have the center line dimensions on the diagram.
You do?
It's center line to edge of pole, 47 feet. Edge of pole to white line, 30 feet for the proposed sign, which is,
Are you reading from a survey or a deed?
no, I'm talking about for the DOT.
So you want
Oh,
to measure it?
Yeah, they physically measured it.
So will you give me those
We
again,
don't, we
please?
still don't have it in a diagram, which I think is important for us to
Yeah.
have.
Center to edge of pole is 47 feet. White line to edge of pole is 30 feet.
We need to see that on a diagram, and also, when was the last, yes?
I'm sorry, I don't know. Concerning the property line, it was brought to my attention. There is a pin at the front side of the property, which is set, but as raised by the abutter, the pin is the type that can be moved over time, so she was disputing it with the guidance from Turning Point, land surveyors, because they couldn't get out there. Went through 50 years of deeds. I found a Saranac property right side pole marker, which I have pictures of, which has been cut off under pavement. Glad that I found it, because once I found it, if I walk the amount of feet of frontage, we're actually only asking for about a foot into the setback at most. It actually proceeds past that temporary pin that was there by about 5 feet. And I have pictures of set pin and deed to support it that says it was a hollow iron pole. It's approximately 1.5 inches in diameter, which was used at the time to mark properties. And I do have pictures of the pin.
Yeah, that would have to be on the diagram.
Yeah, it would. Looking at the application, is everything else complete? Any questions from the planning board, comments?
It's the sign regulations. And sign prohibited,
They went to the zoning board. and got
so that was,
variance.
oh, I thought that was just what setback.
No, they said that's for the setback.
So we've got
see the letter?
Yeah, they're in there. What's the purpose of the shield on the south side of the sign?
Mr. Moon, he was just concerned, due to his developing health issues, the one exposed window off in the distance on his house, which we got with a bunch, and he gave us his blessing.
Okay. That's a distance away.
Yeah, and more than happy to do it, Mr. Moon, like, very good.
No.
Is there anything else that needs to be on this? We have no legend, we have. We're still confused about the property line.
Direction.
It's very hard for us to tell anything from this because there's no directional signs, there's no scale, no legend at all. So I think we need to have that before we can really, you understand what we're saying? That we can't make heads or tails out of this because there's,
I do, I haven't even seen it, to be honest.
okay.
I understand what you're saying, I haven't even seen it, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Good for the thing.
Where the application is not complete, could
Yeah.
you move forward as a, just a chit chat, so he would have a better idea what he needs to bring us next time? Conceptual, that's the word I want, conceptual.
You know what we're saying?
That'd be great.
We can't accept the site plan as is.
That'd be great, I
All right.
appreciate it, yes.
Okay.
But if we change it into a conceptual, then we
Yeah,
can at
we
least.
can. You have a
Now,
problem with that?
do we have to, but formally, do we have to continue it so he doesn't have to pay the fees to the advisor?
Yes, we do need to continue. And then, once we get that done, we'll,
Yeah.
and it's September 8th, okay with you?
As soon as you can, yeah, sounds great to me.
So, have you guys made a motion and about accepting or not accepting?
We have not made a motion, we're not going to accept it. Okay, so
So you're
we're
gonna
gonna
make-
vote on that first, and then we're going to vote on continuing it, okay? So I'll entertain a motion not to accept till it's complete.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and now we need a motion to continue it
Make a motion to continue
till September 8th.
15-8.
15-8. 18 to September 8th.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, now,
Excuse me, is there any way, as an abutter, being representing Fluffy's, I can speak on the property line situation?
well, we need a drawing showing where the property line is. Right now,
A
we don't-
survey or a drawing?
Well, right now, we need at least a drawing.
Is it in
And
question?
it should be,
It's very much in question, and I am selling the property next door, and it's, there's a couple things that are issues. We're not sure where the property lines are. The property has not been surveyed for decades, and we have an issue of that being 6 feet off the property line. It may end up on this property if we don't do a survey. The second thing is that if it's only 6 feet and the variance calls for 20 feet, when my person comes in to do their sign and they go 20 feet, they're gonna be blocking that sign. So there's some issues, and they would be in compliance with that regulation, so we could end up with an issue there. And in my research on the deed, there's a deed restriction that says the conveyance is made subject, this is on the property that's asking for the sign, the conveyance is made subject to the following restrictions: that no building shall be erected upon the above described premises within 28 feet of the sidewalk adjoining the Daniel Webster Highway, nor any sign or any other structure that will materially obstruct or interfere with the view of the store owned now or formerly by Moulton, referring to Fluffy's. And so there's a 28-foot deed restriction, and I hate to see them put the sign up and then all of a sudden we have all these issues, and we have to address all these issues before.
well, that's a legal issue, and I would say we would need to have to see a survey if there is a dispute. And that's not something that we can deal with as a planning board.
We're in the process of, with Turning Point, we've ordered a survey, and it's going to be, anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. And so this will still be a dispute in September 6th, because we will not have a survey at that time. And, I have a septic design showing that property line, the pin that he's referring to, and again, it's a septic design. A septic design person, when they're designing, have to do certain things, and they have to find some meets and bounds. But if this is at all accurate, and again, everything's in question because the property has not been surveyed, there's no recent survey, to even work with, so they've got to find boundary benchmarks wherever they've recently done it. And it's a time-consuming issue, but it shows that if he placed the sign 6 feet off this property line, he would still be on the Fluffy's property. It could be wrong, but we don't know.
You're disputing that.
It's a big question because we don't know. But the other issue is that if him putting the sign on that end of that property is because he wants the best visibility, which obviously the buyer will want the best visibility on their sign. So they'll end up 20 feet from his, and then they'll be blocking his. They'll be saying, well, you're blocking our sign. So that's where you chose to put it.
It's a a boundary line dispute, which again is not in the jurisdiction of the planning board to resolve. So I think that before we could move further, that has to be resolved. So until the dispute is resolved, we can't hear the case.
Well, should we require a survey of at least that line,
At least.
that boundary line?
You can't just do one line without something to work with.
Can I talk about this one to make sure? They are not under agreement with Turning Point. I just text Turning Point was on the phone with Turning Point this morning, so that's completely false. She's asked them how long it would take them to get it, and she's not entered into agreement. So that's completely false, and we'll move past that. Secondly, I know where my boundary line is. I know where it is based on my deed. There is no dispute. If she'd like to dispute it, she can
Well,
bring
I-
evidence that there is a dispute. If I
That-
know
that's-
where
The
my...
dispute's a legal issue, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It's
it's
not
a-
not within our jurisdiction.
Yeah, it's a civil.
to-
Yeah. And understandably so, I also took it, actually came in, yeah, I believe it was yesterday, and took the said septic plan that she has, which is commonly referred to as, I was told by surveyors, a pocket plan, because there is no survey done for a proposed septic. It's based on, this is what we think, this is where it lies. There is no exact measure to that. They don't have to research anything. It's a proposal. It's a proposal that was never followed through on, so it was never required to be surveyed for, and it was never done. So it's kind of pulling a whole lot of things to make me get a survey so that her client doesn't have to.
Oh, no, I'm not, no, we're gonna get a survey, that's part of our contract, so, no, we're gonna get a survey no matter what.
You just told me, you just said 5 minutes ago to the board that you already have it under.
Point of order, okay?
Okay, apologize.
The fact remains that we, as a planning board, cannot act on the site plan
Yep.
if there is a dispute about a boundary. And the only way to settle that dispute is to clear up the boundary, and that's between you, not the planning board. What we need to see is what the actual boundaries are, and we need to see that on the schematic. We need to see the footage that we talked about earlier, and then we can proceed.
Yes. Sorry. So if I'm outside of that 15-foot setback, it's not 20. If I'm outside of that 15-foot setback, this is not an issue here today, correct?
I
Albeit
don't,
an imaginary line or whatnot, we were here to discuss inside the setback. So if I know where my line is and I'm outside of the 15-foot setback, which I said I was looking for about a foot, I'm free to go right to sign.
My thought on that would be, you would, right, if you're outside of the setback, the reason you're here tonight is because the zoning ordinance says that, objects in the setback, such as a sign, can be approved through site plan review. So if you were outside of the setback, you wouldn't need to be before the planning board. However, just so that I'm not leading you astray, the code enforcement officer may, then he'd be in the position, when you submit your building permit or your sign permit, he'd be in the position of having determined whether you were outside the setback. So it still might fall back to that dispute, which.
So we could technically not waste any more of their time, is what I'm getting at.
That's true, yeah, you can withdraw.
Because I mean, you guys have been very helpful. I don't mean to be disrespectful in any way. It's just something that was brought to me at the 11th hour. And I've spent many hours at the registry of deeds and so forth, trying to get it resolved before we're here, because I didn't want to come in empty-handed to you guys and, waste your guys' time, obviously.
but
so I guess
sometimes
we
when
have-
there's a dispute,
Yeah.
the only way to settle it is to get a survey.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, so I definitely thank you guys for, steering me in the right direction on this stuff, the application, and everything. Just want to make sure we get all our ducks in a row.
Okay, so when you get your ducks in a row,
Yeah, we can still,
call and make an appointment with Dawn.
we can still sleep for the 8th. I've already talked to Turning Point when we get out here.
Well, you need to get that and call Dari, and he will put you on the agenda.
Okay.
You have that information in time to do that.
Okay.
Well,
And should you
continue
not
it
be
to
able-
the 8th.
and should
If we
you
can
not be-
continue it further than on the 8th, we should continue it to the next one.
Yeah. Okay?
Thank you.
How long you pay again? Or maybe we do.
But we're already to
It's okay, that advice was worth it, don't
So I'll entertain a motion to continue it to the 8th.
Second.
We didn't
No harm in doing it again.
All right. All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Opposed?
What else do we have?
Okay, so thank you, so we'll see you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next is review of the July 14th, 2015 minutes.
Thank you for that.
Everybody in that copy, what you read the minutes? Entertain a motion to accept. Didn't find last one.
That.
That's one. Okay. Page 4. But we need that. There's nothing in terms of.
No.
It's just, small stuff.
Yeah, with a van and a.
Van and,
that.
two.
Oh, okay.
That on the first page, at the bottom.
I was bored. I needed something to do, and I finally found something that you screwed up on, Dolly. I liked it.
All right.
So I wrote it down.
Tell you more where that came from. So are they clerical to the point where you just need, or you want, sorry.
You just need to correct them, they're not,
Yeah,
it doesn't keep us from approving them.
tell you, two something, now, it's nothing. Twos and hubs and, you
Okay.
know, nothing, nothing is gonna change it.
So I have sent an email. I have a motion to accept the minutes as amended, correct grammatical. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain, just for those.
Abstained? All right, next we have correspondence, and we do have some correspondence, but not that much.
He was ready to bolt.
All right.
You got, yeah, you got.
We have a letter from the DOT, and this is about fire and ice. Dear board members, the New Hampshire DOT District 3 provides the following testimony in response to the above. Requires that no sign shall be erected within the state's 33 feet in the center line. That's what we talked about. The other is an application for surface water discharge permit, and it's the Evans Group. And it's, the address is 63 Laconia Road.
The, I don't know what that's called, the one with the subway in it. That's by Tilton Diner.
Yeah. So,
Well, they're already living there, so they.
Yeah, right.
and then there's this preliminary, this is from the Environmental Services. It's a preliminary small well siting report. Country Meadows. It's the reactivation of BRW1 and BRW2. It's to respond to the May 2015 preliminary report for the reactivation of 2 existing bedrock wells. Is that something you get involved in? Okay. Did you get a copy of this? All right. And I think that's it. I think this is just a...
Oh, that's to
Oh.
help remind, you and Eric need to sign the Spanos subdivision at some point. We can do that tonight or another
We
time.
can do that.
I just didn't want to forget.
All right. All right. So that, and that's the correspondence. Now we have other business. I think we have a couple of people who are here who want to address us.
Yeah. Dari and I have been going back and forth in regards to the land use and the zoning in regards to the property, I think it's 15 Jocelyn Road, is back up next to Lowe's in regards to what could be a possibility of relooking that to not have to subdivide, into 5 different lots, if that's even possible, to put multiple residential rental apartments, and looking to see if there's any way that we could change the density zoning on that to put it, something in the range of 20 to 25 units.
Town meeting?
I'm sorry?
Town meeting?
Yeah, we can't do that, that's the downtown town meeting.
Right, yeah, he understood.
Yeah.
We, basically, following up on the last time he came, Mr. White called me, and I talked about the fact that the planning board had mentioned in our workshop in discussing potential zoning amendments that residential density was identified as an area of needing attention, and being aware that potential zoning changes could impact his development plans. I invited Mr. White to come attend a planning board meeting, as he is tonight, and to just check in with the board and maybe have a brief discussion about that, the board's thoughts on addressing residential density. One thing I recall in looking specifically at Mr. White's ideas for that site was that I think we identified that the cluster subdivision provisions in the subdivision regulations don't really go the distance in terms of enabling a developer to do some of the innovative things that cluster developments are supposed to enable. So something that I brought, and then I can be quiet and let everyone else talk, are a DES in the Innovative Land Use Techniques guidebook or whatever it is. 2 of the chapters that I think might be relevant and useful for planning board members to look at in considering zoning changes to address residential density. One is lot size averaging, and the other chapter is entitled Conservation Subdivision. And both of these chapters contain model language for potential either some cases zone. I don't recall right offhand what document these are intended to land in, but some of these innovative land use techniques are addressed through zoning, others through subdivision and site plan. I have copies here. I'll just hand them forward. Chairman Alden, you have a copy of each already. But I just thought, I think, I think when we were looking at the cluster subdivision regulations, we saw that there was nothing in there that relieved the
If it's something you'd like us to review and you give us 2 copies for 7 people.
I wouldn't expect that you would immediately start reading them right now. I thought it would be useful to hand them out and just let people browse through them as we talk. They're available on DES's website, a variety of locations, and if you don't want to look at it, that's fine.
Can we just go on and listen to Mr. White's here?
So I think we looked and we saw that the big thing that was maybe missing or not there in the cluster subdivision provision was anything sort of letting the developer or relieving the developer of the need to fully subdivide the property. So to me, that was an immediate thing that popped out. Is this really offering anything to developers if you still have to subdivide the property in order to utilize it?
I think one of the things to let you know is that I think we're very well aware, and we've discussed the fact that the demographics of the area have changed considerably. And so that we do need to address some of the issues. And it's probably within our purview at some time in the near future to look into alternatives. Because what our zoning laws embrace right now are not really conducive to how the demographics have changed.
Well, maybe.
I don't think.
We've never really had the discussion as planning board, so you're voicing right now one person's opinion,
Well, I think we.
So we
have
really
discussed
haven't
it.
sat here and had that
We-
kind of in-depth discussion.
We've
You know,
discussed
for
that.
example, if we change the density in, is it mixed use or village? Mixed use.
I think it's mixed use.
Mixed use. How many other lots does it impact? Where are they located?
No, didn't say that we talked about the demographics changing and that we would look at some of the issues that our zoning addresses. That's my only comment, wasn't to get into discussions about density. But we will be looking into things like that.
Do you have a time frame of when you're looking at that, or?
Well, we would like to look at them before town meeting, right?
Yeah, I mean, our recent planning board meetings, the agendas have been pretty full, and unfortunately, we sort of, our plan is to reserve the second meeting of the month to have workshops, and, you know, of course, in the summer, we don't have the second meeting every month, but we'll be starting that up in September, and I think the expectation, I guess, would be at the second meeting in September, so September 22nd, I think it would be another opportunity to have a workshop, and I can stay in touch with you if we're honing in, you know, on a workshop that's specifically, if we're gonna break it up by, maybe at the end of the September 8th meeting, we can come up with a little bit of a schedule, and I can contact you for another time to come back.
So would there be a possibility if that doesn't change, that there would be availability to subdivide into, I think it's like 10.4 acres, subdivide into the 2-acre lots?
We,
Do you have any? No.
Wait.
You need some kind of provision, you need an actual plan to tell you whether, you know, it could be done.
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
Yeah,
A subdivision survey and plan.
right, you could, at any time, submit a subdivision application.
Because I was just thinking, I mean, you were saying it was 2 units per 2 acres is the way it's written right now.
Right, that's,
So
I mean,
you
I
could
don't,
have-
I
Yeah, but
recall,
if you subdivide that, you could subdivide it into 1-acre lots.
unless it was 2 acres, the minimum lot size or something, I don't.
Mixed use is 1 acre without sewers, you know, number one.
Yeah, I mean,
Whichever is larger.
But I think it was that you were only allowed to put two units per.
Per
2
lot.
Is it per lot? Okay.
So if you can divide them into 1-acre lots, you can put 2 units per 1 acre.
So you could do what you were trying to accomplish anyways.
right, I think we were saying it was like, now it's coming back to me, I think your site is parcel about 11 acres.
Yeah.
And we were saying if you subdivided it
Into 1-acre
into
lots.
11 1-acre lots, you'd have 22 units, right? And
Would
that's
that
what
be a
we-
better way to try to approach the planning board than to try to do all this other work? I know you guys might be looking at doing it anyways, just for the sake of the town.
We're looking at
That's-
a town-wide.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking,
Right.
you were doing it anyways.
That's kind of your call as far as the expenses of developing that way. I mean, you know, I guess, you know, one of the advantages of cluster subdivision is that it relieves the developer of some of its infrastructure costs. So it's kind of your call. Do I want to sit and wait and maybe be able to develop less, you know, at a lower cost, or is this something that may never happen and I just need to get going on this?
But it also let you dissolve those assets easily too, if you decide to sell 2 or 3 or 4.
Yeah.
But the steep slopes come into play on that lot
It does. Sounds pretty steep.
in the subdivision?
Oh, yeah, I don't know the site that well.
Isn't that a private road too?
It is, but
It
there's
is
possible
private.
access from Lowe's.
From Lowe's, remember he said that?
Oh, she wasn't here last time.
Oh.
I'd studied the subdivision regulations. You also should know that an individual.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I didn't catch that.
Study the subdivision regulations.
Okay.
You also should know that any individual can petition warrant articles for zoning changes.
You could,
You write your own warrant article for town meeting to be voted on.
Okay.
and get
You have to
a
submit
certain
it
number of
time.
people to sign it, and then submit it,
Okay, for the other thing that we were talking about.
You can do for whatever you want.
whatever you want.
There's a variety of ways of tackling it.
Okay. All right,
Just giving you your options,
appreciate it.
but you have some studying to do.
Yeah, I'll pay for somebody else to do that. All right, thank you.
Mhm.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Thanks.
And we have someone else?
Yes, again, Karen Lamb, selling the Fluffy's property. And the property, the purchasers are looking to do an antique shop. And the property was used, the last approved use on the property was a furniture store. So it's kind of, same use. And I kind of, one of the things that came up where we have a boundary dispute, we're gonna have to talk about that. We are going to get a survey, but it, the surveyor is 4 to 6 weeks out. And then we could, be putting everything on the plan. We're trying to close sooner than that. And, Dari, I've met with Dari, and he said that I could do it on the septic plan and just draw up, the plan that's there as a kind of meeting all the requirements, doing the lighting, the drainage, the DOT issues with the highway cuts, the driveway permit for the access to the town road, Church Landing is, Church Street. And I guess my question is, can I do it on a plan, or are you gonna be looking for a survey?
Well, again, you've got the same situation of the dispute of the property line.
We won't have any dispute on the property line because the parking will be up by the building and it was all aligned over by the building. And it doesn't come close to the property line. So we're not putting any parking on that property line, and it's not a convenience store or something like that that has X amount of parking. What is required for an antique shop for parking?
Your building site the use has been abandoned for 4, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. So it's really a do-over site plan.
It is.
So you've got, whatever you submit to us, whether it's engineered or you can't draw it, you're gonna have to show drainage, parking, all of the requirements in the site plan. It doesn't, I don't think it specifically says it has to be by an engineer, but you're gonna have all that information. It's gonna have to be accurate. You're gonna have to show.
It doesn't have to be to scale. I mean,
Yeah.
you might have the most fancy drawing in the world, but if it's not to scale, it doesn't tell us anything.
Okay, so that's kind of where it's at. I mean, I can scale things out, I don't have a problem with that, but I don't want to be doing something that is just a waste of my time when, someone pay, but no one will touch it. None of the people that do present to the board will touch it without a survey. So we're basically waiting for that survey. I mean, I have all the drainage because the site is a dirty site and it's DES, and so we have all that information available to us from, it's being monitored through the audit fund, and so I have tremendous information on that. I can do the lighting stuff, but I don't have a 2-scale plan to work with, so, I'm back to, kind of the same spot that fire and ice or whatever they're
Fire and stone, is it fire and stone?
Fire and stone,
I keep
yes.
wanting to say
People say fire and ice all the
I wanna
time,
say
yeah.
fire and ice.
Well, you said that and confused me. It's like, have I been calling it the wrong name?
No, but it's,
People say it all the time.
I call it fire and hearth. I think I was calling it fire and hearth, wasn't it?
Fire and brimstone.
That's nice enough.
You did call it fire and ice tonight, and I was like, I've been calling that the wrong name all this time. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
I'm sure you're ready to go home.
All right.
See you,
I'll
thank
entertain a
you.
motion to go.
I have something to suggest, since it comes up week after week, that on our application that we move water main, sewer, and utilities up out of that category for subdivision, blah, 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 and let it from Tilton Northfield Fire and EMS. And it is Tilton Northfield Fire and EMS now, not TNFD. And a letter from Tilton Northfield after that. Move them up. So they do become applicable.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I'll add it to our list of changes. Is that what you're saying?
Why did you better do it, or you can get crap from me?
Well, I know, but I
Freaking
mean,
week.
are you saying that at the next planning board meeting, we should set up a public hearing, or can we lump it in with
Better
something?
get to it.
All right.
All right. Motion,
Make motion to adjourn.
okay. All right, Eric, let's sign this thing.
Oh, can we, yeah.
Especially when you want to go, you tried to jump earlier.
I'm getting hot by the police station. They're gonna be hot.
It's gonna be,
I got it from the orange joy.
it's going to be
I'm
a conservation area.
You've been